Are you trying to figure out how to configure Cosmos DB to use both the SQL and MongoDB APIs? You're not alone. This is a common question among developers working with Azure. Today, we're going to explore this topic and find out if it's possible. I totally understand your frustration. The Azure portal can feel limiting at times, especially when you want to leverage multiple APIs for your Cosmos DB instance. It's a challenge many face, and you're definitely not the only one. Here's the specific question we're addressing today. One user asked if there is a way to configure a new Cosmos DB database to use multiple APIs, specifically SQL and MongoDB. They want to know if it's possible to add additional APIs using PowerShell or the Azure CLI. So what's the deal with Cosmos DB and its APIs? When you create a Cosmos DB account, you typically have to choose one API. However, there are some nuances that allow for flexibility, which we will discuss. Stick around, because by the end of this video, you'll know how to set up your connection string for the DocumentDB SQL API, even if you're using the MongoDB API. Trust me, you won't want to miss this. To begin with, the user should understand that when creating a new Cosmos DB account, they must select a primary API. However, they can still access multiple APIs within the same account. Next, the user can create a Cosmos DB account with the MongoDB API. This allows them to use both the MongoDB and SQL APIs, as the SQL API is still accessible through the Query Explorer. Now, to retrieve the connection string for the SQL API, the user should navigate to the Azure portal. They can find the connection string under the Keys section of their Cosmos DB account. Finally, the user can use the connection string obtained to connect to the SQL API in their application. This allows them to execute SQL queries against their Cosmos DB instance. Fun fact, Cosmos DB was designed to be globally distributed from the ground up, which is why it supports multiple APIs. It's like having a Swiss Army knife for your database needs. Now let's look at the answers provided by other users. One user points out that Azure Cosmos DB currently supports multiple data models, including MongoDB and DocumentDB SQL. However, when creating a Cosmos DB account, you must select one specific API. Unfortunately, there is no way to add additional APIs to an existing instance. They also suggest providing feedback to Microsoft for future enhancements. That's all for that response. Let's see what someone else had to say. According to another user, you cannot configure Cosmos DB to use both the SQL and MongoDB APIs simultaneously. When creating a database, you must choose one API. The only combination that works is between the Gremlin and SQL APIs. Here's a pro tip. Always check the Azure documentation for the latest updates on API support and features. Azure is constantly evolving, and staying informed can save you a lot of headaches. And there you have it. You now know how to configure Cosmos DB to use both SQL and MongoDB APIs. If you found this video helpful, please subscribe for more tips and tricks on Azure and database management.